Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the latest in the Phase 3 Meet series. This week, I'm joined by the co-founder and CEO of Applaud, Ivan Harding. Ivan, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. Thank you very much for taking time out of what I can only imagine is a ridiculously busy schedule to record this with me. Thank you very much. We always start with an overview of the business. So why don't you tell us all about Applaud and what it is you guys do?
Sure. Well, firstly, it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me along. It's always nice to talk about Applaud and the background to it. But in terms of what we do as a business, we help large enterprises simplify their digital employee experience. So that's the elevator pitch. It's always helpful to sort of unpack what that actually means in practice. And I think when we sort of talk about the problems that larger businesses have with their technology that they deploy to their workers today, we often see now real complexity in environments. I think there's been a real land grab over the last 10 years around buying lots of cloud solutions and point solutions that are rolled out for administrative purposes, but there's usually an impact on employees and workers. And there's just so much stuff in businesses today. And when you go into business and say, what are your employees asked to use? What are your managers asked to use to do particular processes? You'll often find there's 10, 20, 30 systems these guys have to use. So that whole ecosystem of the systems facing the workforce are getting more complicated. That's essentially what Applaud does. We have a kind of a layer that sits on top of large enterprises systems, delivers a nice consumer grade experience, makes it easier to use, simplifies the process, gives lots of knowledge and support, and it just improves HR service delivery and makes it a lot easier for employees and managers to work with the HR technology that customers have. So that's Applaud in a nutshell.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. And I actually think it's a very clever piece of technology. I think it's quite super cool. Where did the idea come from?
It kind of, I guess it evolved. I'll probably have to go back and sort of talk about the history of Applaud for a few minutes. I think, first of all, we're not a brand new company. We've been going since the late 2000s. So we're into our 13th year now. But we had our background in user experience.
Okay.
A subset of employer experience. And often when we talk to sort of HR leaders, they kind of mix the two up. They say, oh, we've got really old clunky systems. We need to do something about the user experience, thinking that will improve the employee experience, which is such a buzzword today. But that's where we started. We had the sort of pitch that we would introduce a solution that made your old on-premise system look like Workday, basically, because everyone wanted Workday right 10 years ago, which is very much a sort of a user experience-driven thing. And that worked for us, helped us grow. But over time, we saw the value proposition of that was diluted. The wider topic of HR service delivery is much more important. And employee experience is more around not just making it easy to use, like consumer grade experience, those nice apps that you use and everything else, but actually making it easier to get help, making it easy and frictionless to sort of do the things that you need to do as an employer or a manager. We always talk about the kind of the Amazon experience, for example. If you go onto Amazon, no one would look at Amazon and say that's the sexiest website ever, right? But it does everything it needs to in one place. If you want to buy something, you've got everything at your fingertips to make a decision. And when you want to buy it, it's very easy. They strip away everything that could get in the way of you making that buy press. So that's where it sort of Applaud evolved. We started with UX. We kind of got that really well. That's in our DNA to really have a really nice user experience. But it's evolved over time to be more encapsulated in that. So we have things like knowledge and support, AI, bots, links into service that's very highly integrated into downstream systems. We're not about replacing people's systems, we're about making those existing systems easier to use. So it's been a long path, but it's
a natural journey, that isn't it? I suppose from user experience to employee experience. And the Amazon example you gave there, I think, is actually perfect. Amazon is far from the best looking website or app, depending on how you access it. But imagine if it wasn't there, and what's behind that, So yeah.
I have a good friend that works with Amazon, and there's a lot behind it, I can tell you. And they think very, very deeply about, even the color of the buy button. There's so much work that goes into that. But actually, if you look at Amazon, how it's evolved as a website, it doesn't look great different to how it did 10 years ago. And it's a good demonstration that user experience is not all about pretty screens. It's about making it easy to do the things you need to do, and that's what people sort of value. And we get so frustrated, to going into think about yourself outside of work, struggling to buy something on the website or get help with a product that's not working. We all hate that sort of stuff. And if you transport that into work, it's one of those things that we can really kind of get managers and employees down if they have this sort of same experience with the digital solutions in-house.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. We are going to come back to Applaud in terms of your plans moving forward, but I'd like to drill down a little bit into the life of a founder.
Okay.
It's been a while since I've done a phase 3 meet with a founder or co-founder in your case, but is running a business something you always wanted to do?
No, not really. It might surprise you to have that honest answer. I think I was a late bloomer, I suppose. I mean, we started and founded Applaud in 2008. So I was kind of in my mid-30s, maybe a little bit north of that. So you can probably guess my age now. But I was just a regular guy working in the software development company. And it was around that time where, Dragon's Den was taking off and The Apprentice was its first series, and that area of, normal people can start a business up and be successful was kind of getting into the zeitgeist, if you like. And I suppose, so many people have that aspiration, don't they? If can I do better than the company that I'm in? And I suppose there's a bit of that. There's a bit of, do I want to be, 60 years old and still sort of hacking out code and stuff? And I personally felt that starting up a business, giving it a go, if I didn't do it, it'd be regret. And actually, sometimes you sort of wring your hands thinking, well, what can I do? Am I good enough? Do I have a good enough idea? And it just evolved from one day sitting thinking, there's a gap in the market for what we're doing. And, why not have a go? If it doesn't work out, at least I've said I've had a go. And there was a lot of that in it. And it just went from, strength to strength, luckily. It took a long time. 13 years is a long time to be running a business. And I'm very lucky to have a good co-founder with me. So it's been a long path, but a good one. It's very rewarding when things work out.
Absolutely it is. And on the co-founder front, one of the things I always say to the guys in phase 3 and whenever I'm kind of speaking to people is, if I could turn back the clock, I would probably have set up phase 3 with a co-founder, because it can be a lonely place. All the responsibility or the burden, for want of a better term, is on one kind of pair of shoulders. As a founding team, a couple of questions. Firstly, do you think you would have done it if it wasn't for setting up with a co-founder? And secondly, what's been the biggest kind of challenge that you faced over the years as kind of as a founding team?
Would I have done it without a co-founder? I think I might have had a go, but I don't think I'd have lasted very long, to be honest.
Right. Okay.
I think the scale of the amount you don't know is always surprising, and even now, learning all the time. I'm sure you found it the same.
Yeah.
So I think if I was on my own, I'm not sure Applaud would be around today, or it certainly would be in the form it is today. I think having someone else to who's got a different skill set that complements your own is really important. That support network, no one really gets what you're going through like someone who's on your shoulder and been there from the start. So for me, that's been one of the strengths of the business, is just having someone else there, and also someone to tell you, well, actually, that's not a very good decision. I think it's important, to be able to tell each other and be honest. And I think one of the questions we get asked is, because there's just two of us, there's not the majority vote, if you like. We're both sort of equal and everything. How do you make decisions when there's just two of you? And I don't know, I guess it's like a marriage in business, isn't it? If one of us disagree, it doesn't get done. That's our sort of unspoken rule. But it's been fundamental to us to sort of keep each other going. And you do have tough times, and having someone else there to say, "Come on, we're doing all right," and getting us along has been really, really good. So kudos to you to do it on your own, because it can be a lonely place, even if there's two of you. I can tell you that. But on your own, that's a different ball game altogether.
Yeah.
In terms of challenges, I didn't answer that question. I mean, so many over the years. There's.
I'm just thinking. Sorry to interrupt you there. You said you started in 2008, so that's kind of financial crash, recession, credit crunch time. That was a brave decision, wasn't it?
my
Depending
daughter,
on which point in 2000. Well, yeah.
two kids preschool, and my younger daughter's only been born a year as well. So yeah, it was a bit nuts,
Wow.
to be honest.
Wow. That's brave. That's brave.
I don't know why I did it. I think I read somewhere that actually businesses that start in a recession come out stronger. So I told myself that for a few years. Yeah, it was a bit nuts. You have the idea and you go for it, don't you? Regardless of what's going on, is no point holding on to. I think I've got a good idea. I'll do it in 4 years. Otherwise, you just don't do it. So it was the right time for us and everything else.
Yeah. So just in terms of obviously that's probably a challenge in itself in terms of one of the challenges starting during that period. But moving past from the kind of the time you set the business up, what kind of challenge, or what do you think the biggest challenge is that you faced over the years?
It's difficult to pick some out. I mean, as you grow through different stages, the challenges are different, and it doesn't get easier as the company gets bigger. That's one thing I will say. I think at the company size we are now, we've got 80 people. One of the challenges we've got now is just keeping everyone engaged and communication and keeping everyone in the loop. How you do that, especially in the environment we are now, where we're all office based. But if I went back sort of 10 years, I'd be all focused on cash flow. Had a few tight scrapes in the early days. If that was a advice I'd give anyone starting up, I'd like cash is king. You get that wrong, that can be painful. I remember starting up our R&D centre in India. We've got a great team out there now. That was hard, really hard. And you kind of find out that there isn't much as local support as you might expect for a sort of up and coming company to do those sorts of things. So they sort of vary all the time. Company governance and understanding kind of the value of a good business plan. That was a big pivot point when we really started to accelerate our growth, to try to get that in place, not sort of being cash driven, but being a bit more focused on forecasting sales and stuff. So there's a whole variety of things. These all vary with the size, but a lot of late nights.
I could imagine. I'm interested that the planning bit that you mentioned there.
Mm-hmm.
I was never a huge planner.
No.
Partly personality, partly because it didn't make sense to me that you're planning for 5 years from this point, where so much can happen. So one of the things we have within phase 3 now, we actually do have a 5-year plan as well, because of that more strategic growth and scale that we're going through. But we also have a 90-day plan, just to make it feel a lot more real. So quarterly, essentially, everyone knows what they're doing, all the different functions within the business, so on and so forth. And I had to do quite a bit of reading to get myself into the frame of actually creating in conjunction with the members of the team, the 5-year plan.
Right.
Because I did struggle to kind of buy into that concept, where we're such a fluid organization. I'm sure you guys are as well. At this stage of your growth, things change week by week basis. So how the hell can you write something down for 2026?
Yeah, it's particularly when you're looking at things like hiring plans, because in the businesses we're in, the biggest cost is the people, right? So, how do I know who I'm going to need in 2025? But we have something similar. I think we had a pivot point about 3 years ago, where we sort of changed from being, I would say, we were sort of cash driven. Like, we look at the balance in the bank and say, well, we'll hire someone else and we need this person, to actually saying, this is what we're trying to make this year, and this is the hiring plan we're going to do. In the early days, it was kind of on an annual basis. Now we sort of trying to do it a bit more quarterly. But I think a lot of that long-term stuff, again, a lot of reading, which you do as a founder. You kind of have to read up on everything, don't you? And finance is one of them. There's lots of sort of KPIs that we aim for. So in the SaaS world, you're not anybody unless you're doing 50% growth, year-on-year growth. So you can start mapping that out. You can kind of extrapolate what sort of sales force you need to deliver those sorts of revenues, and then how many logos you're going to get or customers you hope to get, or how many people do you need in customer services and support. So you can kind of do some algorithms. I think if you haven't got a mind for detail, or you haven't got anyone on your team that's good for detail, that can be quite a laborious task.
I think that's the key, isn't it? You've got to surround yourself by people who make up for perhaps the gaps you feel are in yourself. So again, I'm not a details person, but the team make up for that kind of gap.
Well, that's just a brilliant lesson for any founder. You''ve got to be hiring people that are better than you in those roles.
Yeah.
I think myself and Duncan, who's my co-founder, we call ourselves product people. That's what we know. But we had to learn sales as we went, marketing, finance, and so on. And we've hired great leaders in those positions to help us along. And it's so nice when you can afford to pay, for the good people that can do that stuff better than we can. But as a founder, you have to do everything yourself up to that point.
Absolutely. Well, look, massive kudos to you. I mean, I respect anybody who's been in business for a year, let alone 12, 13 that you have, and not just that, running a very kind of innovative and progressive business. So congratulations on that. I had to stop myself in my mind from saying I applaud you. Hey,
a little drum roll.
There you go. There you go. So moving back then to Applaud, what can we expect to see in the next kind of 12 months, 24 months? What's your kind of direction of travel, Ivan?
We're always keen to innovate on the product, and that's all going into the product stuff. That's always a big focus on our roadmap, and trying to keep ahead of the game. I think over the last 2 years, we've started to see some of the big boys and big players come into the market. We've got competition with customers, vendors like ServiceNow, Workday. We're competing with Oracle's new release, as well as the vendors are around the same sort of size as us. So you can imagine. We haven't got the big logo there to compete, so we always compete on product a lot of the time, and service. So we're always innovating there. But I think
how good does it? Sorry to interrupt you. How good does it feel when you beat a ServiceNow or a Workday to a customer, to a logo? I mean, it must feel amazing.
We have a little fist pump, little glass of bubbly now and again. It's funny with sales, and I don't know if it's the same for you or anyone listening who does this, but often with we sell for enterprises, and the sales cycle is pretty slow, months and even years sometimes. So actually, when you get to the point where that sale is across the line, you kind of feel exhausted because you kind of knew it was going to happen 2 months ago, and it's kind of like getting the legal people picking it off and information skip, whatever. So it's funny actually. I don't find as many kind of punch the air moments as we used to do in the early days. But when you hear that you've been selected, that's the moment where you kind of give everyone a little high five, or virtual one as we're all remote.
I say to my guys, I say the day that I stop feeling disappointed when we've lost a deal is the day I pack up and go home. Because I still get that horrible feel. I need to get home. I need to either go and play football, or I need to go to sleep and wake up the next day. That's my kind of routine. I hate it when we lose a deal. And I think once you lose that feeling, that's maybe when it's time to pack up. But I apologize. I interrupted you telling us about the future of for Applaud.
I should add in there. Of course, I've never experienced losing a deal, but that'll be clear.
Then I congratulate you even more.
No. I wish I could say that. No, I think to have to run something, you have to be a pretty competitive person, I think, inwardly. So you're right. They should all hurt when they don't go your own way, but you can't win everything, of course. Direction of travel is a lot around growth now. We've got a good product. We're happy with it, and we're UK based. We've got our HQ is in the UK with an Indian team, where we've got a quite good European market ahead of us in the pipeline. We're looking to expand into new regions, new markets, into the US, into sort of APAC. So a lot of it's around growth. I think we have aspirations we're in quite a sort of a niche area at the moment that ServiceNow are doing very well in. We kind of have aspirations to be a recognised name, a Gartner Quadrant or Forrester Wave contender. I think that would be a really high aspiration as well to get us on the map. We've got a lot more analysts talking about us this year than we have had previously, which is good. Quite helped by unfortunate events that have happened, and the remote nature of working has helped our value proposition. So everything's in the right place, right time. So just enjoying it at the moment, and I'm kind of at the size where it's still exciting. We still know everyone in the company, and everyone's got like sort of buzz of something special's happening.
I say I super excited to follow your journey, to see where you guys, how far you guys go, and congratulate you again on creating such a marvelous business.
Thank you.
We're gonna move on to the quick fire round.
Okay.
Where
I've heard about it. Should I be worried?
No, you shouldn't be worried. You shouldn't be worried at all. It's all. I'm looking at the questions. It's all very straightforward. Okay, what's the best thing about running your own business?
I would say it's the work-life balance, actually, which might surprise you because it's a lot of hard work. But I've been working at home for 12 years now, I suppose, and I've seen my young kids grow up. I know their school teachers in Italy or before they left school. So I think I wasn't seeing that with the career I had before that, and sort of the freedom. To see your family a lot more has been very special. I wouldn't have given that up. I think just to sort of see your own thing grow as well is just enormously satisfying. It gives you, I've been based in product teams before, and you always get a sense of satisfaction when you get something as a team out the door. But when you've crafted it from nothing, it just gives you an immense sense of pride. And also when you sort of see the team so engaged and so behind building something that kind of me and my co-founder have built from the ground up, is just very humbling as well. That's a really sort of nice to, especially when I go out to India, that gives me a great buzz to see the team out there. They're so sort of happy and engaged and motivated. That's a really good thing. So that's not a very quick answer, was it? But I'll give you.
No, it doesn't need to be quick. It doesn't need to be quick. If they are the best things, what's the worst thing?
Worst things. I think trying to get legal signed at the end of a sales cycle.
Legals at any point, surely.
Not that I've got anything against lawyers, but they always seem to at the end. I think probably the fact that sometimes at the end of the day you spend so much time sort of in meetings speaking to people, you kind of lose sight of what did I do today. And I find that's sort of invaded my life over the last 2 years. It's like, I don't think I'm actually doing anything now. I'm just speaking to people, and kind of, whereas before, especially starting out, you always had a deliverable. You always used to get stuff out. I don't do that anymore. It's not regret, but it's kind of sometimes you kind of look back and think, I wish I could just have a day to myself and churn out a bit of whatever. Even if it was
Why don't you? Why don't you still get involved? You could still kind of, get involved if you had to, or if you wanted to. Sorry.
I get my hands dirty now and again. It's just not as often as I like. But sometimes it's just the volume of meetings, and also, most of the time, problems are what comes up in my day. Yeah. Probably the same for you. You very rarely get sort of someone come up and say, "Hey, let's spend an hour to talk about some good stuff that happened yesterday." It's usually kind of like,
so it's all good stuff at the moment. It's I wish. Okay. Next question. What was your first car?
Citroen. It was a bright purple Citroen that I got when I came out of university. It was a massive 1.0 engine, and I remember very clearly I got almost free insurance on it, even though I was like a 21-year-old, my first car, because I signed up to Direct Line in their first year of business, and they said we'll give you full known claims bonus out of the gate if you sign up with us, because no one's heard of them. So I think I got my first insurance on my first Citroen for about £100 and kept it ever since. Anyway,
fantastic. I remember looking in the Auto Trader. I think was it £500 or under section. When you're a kid, it's probably like 2,000 and under now, isn't it, or 5,000 and under or whatever. But it used to be £500 and under, and that was like, if I could afford a car in that range when I was 16, 17, whatever it was when I passed my test, that would have been like absolutely amazing.
Right, yeah. I think mine is worth much more than that, but yeah.
Purple Citroen, brilliant.
Okay. Tropical Violet was the technical.
Tropical Violet.
Look it up. It'll be on YouTube somewhere, on Google somewhere. You'll be able to see it. Yeah. It's quite loud.
Nice.
Okay.
What's your favourite sport?
In terms of watching football, and in terms of participating in, I'm terrible at football, so I'm a bit of a runner. So I like running, sort of compete in the odd 10K half marathon sort of stuff.
Oh wow, that's very good. That's excellent. And what's your favourite? What's your team football wise?
Newcastle United. You can't tell the accent, but I've been supporting them for a long time.
How did that come about then?
So I'm a man of Kent, and they don't have a particular rich football heritage down in Kent. My local team was Mate, if anyone knows about Kent and the towns down there, and they went out of business in 1991. Literally went bankrupt because they sold their ground to a DIY store and never recovered from it. So I was left without a football team basically, and all my all my mates were supporting Manchester United and Liverpool and Arsenal and all the classics. I thought, well, I don't want to do that. It's glory hunting. So I think Newcastle just brought on Keegan. They just about survived in their division
yes.
or championship season or whatever it was back then, Division 2. So I thought, well, I just hang on their coattails. They look interesting, and
Okay.
as football does, you know. So yeah, I've been supporting them ever since. So I had some good days back then, and then not so much in the last 10
Not so
years.
many recently. Yeah. Okay. The penultimate question. What's your favorite social media app?
Cool. Well, I mean, I used to be on Facebook a lot, but actually during the pandemic, I turned it off, like a bit of a grouch. I suppose I say Facebook. I mean, I'd probably use LinkedIn more, but don't know if that's really social media because it's more business, but probably Facebook. I don't have an Instagram account. I had been seen on TikTok. There's a challenge for your viewers. Somewhere on TikTok, I'm there dancing, but I'm
Really?
not the link anywhere. I did get roped in by the kids during the pandemic.
Don't blame the kids, Ivan. Don't blame the kids.
Yeah, well, obviously, really. Yeah, I don't use Twitter too much. Facebook probably is where I spend any time I do on social.
Okay. And then final question. In another life, if you could have any other job or role, position, what would it be?
I reckon I'd be a professional footballer.
Professional footballer.
For 10
Nice.
years. And
Nice.
then I'll be a pundit. I reckon
That's the journey. That's the journey now, isn't it? It's out there.
I reckon those guys have got a good life. Playing the sport you love and being a good professional footballer, by the way, not being a bad one. But I think if you've got that sort of skill and you fall into that, what a great lifestyle to have, to be able to do the job you love, get paid like that, and then the sort of after effects as you get older. But doesn't happen to very many, does it? It's a very
Unfortunately, no. I do a bit of football coaching under 13s, and I think if you look at the stats, it makes really bad reading. I think 0.02% of the children that play football in any kind of local team all around the country will make it in professional, not even Premier League, professional.
Yeah.
So that's slim pickings.
It's brutal, but yeah, if you can make it, well, what a good life, I reckon. But,
absolutely. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope you enjoyed it as much as I have. And guys, if you're watching, if you want to find out all about Applaud, get on their website, ask for a demo, follow them on social media, on LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever you find them. I wish you all the success in the world I've been moving forward. I look forward to following your journey as well. And thank you again for joining me today.
No worries, thank you too. I enjoyed it, and good luck to you too.
Thank you.